Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we know kids are back at school, so we're taking a bit of a relaxed look, or are we just busy as ever from 2019 to 2020? I'm Khawa Solomon, and today we focus on learning challenges, academic sort of issues and concerns that your children have. It is 2020, so Health Matters is focusing on you and your child, so their school year, as we kick off Health Matters for 2020. Alhamdulillah. Shukran so much to you for joining us. Please do stay with us for the next hour. Remember, if you've missed any of our shows, you can catch it on our YouTube channel, ITV Networks, Health Matters. Google any topic, and if there's any of the shows that you have missed, please do contact us during office hours, and inshallah we will try and get the notes through to the production and see how we can send that through to you. You will be interacting with us because we want to know what your children are up to, what are you worried about, what concerns you have with regards to the school or the educator, and how we can work together with this. Today in studio we have with us specialist educational psychologist Yasmin Osman. Shukran so much for your time, and we really do appreciate Umar. We really appreciate your time because I know this is your forte and you love this, so alhamdulillah, we hope to bring all of that out to our viewers today, inshallah.
Wa alaikum assalam. Jazakallah for having me. Yes, brilliant topic, and I'm sure I'd be able to help and offer insight.
Inshallah. Educational psychologist and our in-studio medical specialist from the IMA, Dr. Shoaib. We haven't seen you for a while, sir, so it's good to have you back.
Assalamu alaikum, Hawa. Thank you for getting my name right once more. And it's always wonderful to be here. I think we have a really fascinating topic today, and something which obviously impacts on a large number of people, as they go through parenthood, as they go through schooling. So I think hopefully, inshallah, we can offer some advice.
Definitely. And I think, at the end of the day, we're all parents. When we have a child at school, we have a niece or a nephew, we're members of community, they are our concern. So inshallah, academic barriers it comes up. Whether you win or lose, whether you think it doesn't happen or not, it's going to come up. But so, Dr. Shoaib, I think I'd like you to just give us an introduction.
So, Allah SWT has made the seeking of knowledge an imperative. There's a famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he mentions that seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. And we know that seeking knowledge is a natural human imperative, but every human being is different and has different capabilities and different abilities, and then we try and fit all these different pegs into the same little hole in a schooling system. So a child may be in a class of 15 or 20 children, and they're all getting educated in the same way, and that way of being educated may not be conducive or may not be ideal for every single child. It may work for the average child, and it may be too much for the exceptional child, and they may find it boring. And a child at the other end of the spectrum who may be slower or have some type of learning disability or learning difference, let's put it that way. I wouldn't say it's always a disability. Will then find it challenging. So that's where we have this mismatch between the schooling system and the ability of the child to learn. And sometimes, especially if the parent is not engaged in their child, or if the school is not engaged in their child, that can fall under the radar and be missed. So we're trying to open and deliver some insight on some of those aspects, and inshallah Yasmin can help us a lot with that.
And often that's not the first question you ask as a parent, and through the experience that I've had, alhamdulillah, that's one of my first questions that I ask. What are you going to do if my child has a problem? But firstly, let's kick off the show and find out what are the common academic challenges that may arise in that first few weeks, just to pick up on how the child is coping.
In any new environment, it's fitting in.
Okay.
It's fitting in, and we have a whole lot of issues around peer pressure. We have a whole lot of issues around finding the correct fit with your teacher, working together and getting an understanding. So I think for a child, from a child's perspective, fitting in is the most important issue. Whether it's the way you look, whether it's the way you talk, whether it's your pencil case being the same, whether you like your teacher and so on, all of these things come in. Little things that can affect the entire schooling year and schooling career.
Is there a ripple effect on those issues?
Definitely,
Okay.
definitely. Because if one child is a major influencer in the class, you are going to get it flowing through, and you'll have the entire atmosphere of the class changing. However, there are little things that can be done in order to help this. And Dr. Wadi picked on a whole lot of issues very, very nicely. And one of the most important things is for a parent to accept the child as well. That acceptance is so important, even with the teacher, even with siblings, even with all caregivers. That acceptance is so important.
Let's look at the role between parent and educator, Dr. Wadi. What should they, what are the basis of the
So I'm a parent, this is really not my forte, but and I think Yasmin will be able to comment much more intelligently on that. But I think the reality is, as a parent, your perspective is focused on this child. From your child's perspective, you want the best for your child, but you also may be conflicted by many different things. For example, what are your financial resources like? What type of financial resources can you offer this child? Private school, you know, the problems with schools in South Africa, and some of them are much better than others. There isn't a standardized, high quality schooling system. So you're already conflicted. I want to offer my child the best. Therefore, I must pay more, and therefore I must try and get my child into a private school. And it's a real problem for many parents who are just working basically to get their child through school. The second issue is that sometimes your children are not all the same. You may have one child who's an A student and another child who's struggling, and you have to reconcile, as Yasmin is saying, that every child, from my own perspective, we've had that issue that you have to reconcile that every child has got a different level of ability, and you have to love and respect that child equally and support their child through what they need. Not every child needs the same amount of support. There may be a child who comes home and does all their homework without you asking, and there may be another child that you have to nag. And so I'm sure Yasmin will bear it out.
Parents have to work together. They have to understand. When you come to, this is the same thing the teacher does. You have 25 to 30 children in your class, hopefully, not more than that. And you've got to understand each child. And you've got to work according to what they give you, and you gently nudge them. This pushing and urging and putting your expectations on the child is definitely something that tends to be a debilitating factor.
So looking at, you've mentioned things that I thought, as a parent and as educator, we actually miss, sort of the social aspect, fitting in. What are those that stands out initially, like a reading challenge, whether the child is dieting? What are the concerns that parents has to look at when they are going to, whether it's primary school and letting their child fit in, but academic issues?
Okay, so we have different types of parents. Those who are totally involved and supportive, those who are extremely, extremely distant from their child and expect the teacher to do everything. We have them in between as well. And a lot of the times we have parents who come in with different expectations. They don't understand the syllabus, they don't understand the content, and maintaining a relationship with your teacher is quite important. Maintain a relationship, ask the questions, understand what's happening so that you can support. Remember, your teacher is your specialist. You are the parent. You have to support the teacher, not tell the teacher what to do. And once you have that, and once your teacher is working with you, you are there for the child. And that's very important as well. We're looking at learning difficulties and reading difficulties and so on. Support at the home, I think the first thing that's so important is reading. Create that atmosphere of reading at home, encourage, be the example. Be the example. I mean, we have a rat race going on with parents coming in late and trying to get supper on the table, and they got all their work pressures on. But leave that outside. When you come in, be present. This is the thing. Most parents are not present when they are home. A child's trying to fill in the whole day's episodes and want you to listen, and you think that at this moment in time, it's more important for you to put food on the table. Stop. Give your child that attention. Give your child that little bit. Eye contact, hugs, very, very important. And parents are missing that on that.
What do we find are sort of the symptoms, as you would say, that you could pick up that a child is maybe struggling at school?
Firstly, speak to your teachers. They will tell you. I mean, we have parents coming and say, my child is brilliant. Yes, every child is brilliant, but their packages are different. And they unwrap it at different times as well. Understand that. And what we've got to accept is that the teacher knows best.
Yeah.
Go with that, and if ask your teacher for guidance, and if it's much more specialized, you need to get in contact with a psychologist or with a specialist to help you.
Okay. Dr. Shoaib?
Look, I think kids are naturally inquisitive. They have a desire to learn. It's very, it's usually not necessary to motivate a child to want to learn. They want to learn things. But there can be exceptions. And sometimes there are medical reasons why the child does not want to learn. Maybe he's depressed or has got some other anxiety issue or something else. Sometimes it's the nature of what you're making him learn. Doesn't interest him, it's boring. He doesn't want to learn that, he wants to learn something else. And sometimes there are other obstacles. The child is having difficulty learning and his self-esteem has suffered to such a degree that it becomes less and less desirable for him to stay involved. He just sort of almost gives up. So I think if a child is struggling to learn and is not performing at the levels that you want to in school, I'm sure Yasmin will tell us there are probably steps you need to go through to see, all the way from whether the child has got a simple thing like they can't see the board or they can't hear the teacher, right down to that they have a dyslexia or some type of established learning abnormality, or they just have decreased concentration, or they're distracted by something else. I'm sure there are multiple issues that you need to work through. But I think if you speak to the teacher, often they'll be able to give you some advice. And if you're still not sure, then I think an educational psychologist or someone who's informed about these type of things is the way to go through, where they can do formal testing, listen to you, listen to the child, and work through those issues.
Yes. We'll go through, inshallah, a to-do list when we get back with educational psychologists and things and signs to pick up if there's anything that you're concerned about with regards to your child, if they are stunted at school somehow. And emotions does play a role. We'll talk more on that just after this. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. This is Health Matters and we're unpacking learning difficulties. If there's a challenge that your child is suffering from and you haven't picked up on it, let's just find out how he or she is feeling as well. We chat to educational psychologists and Dr. Shoaib Wadi in studio with us and just sort of unpack what is happening with our children and how parents can pick it up. But before we do that, what are the most, Yasmin, what are the most common sort of academic challenges that parents do come to you with?
Parents miss out quite a bit, and some of them tend to be in denial. This is one thing that early detection does not work with academics. And the minute a teacher indicates that your child is struggling, I think immediately try to find a solution for that. Try to go to a professional. We find the delays, things are picked up in grade R, like your child is inattentive, your child is not completing tasks, cannot focus, is not finishing on time, is more playful, or is generally knocking over things continuously, causing fights, resulting in disagreements with the teacher, challenging behavior in the classroom, and that is overlooked till it comes to the fore around grade 3. And in grade 4, it is much more apparent. And then parents start running around, we want to know what is wrong. Why is my child not achieving targets? Why is this my child always in getting notes against in the principal's office? I was going to say that. Not as bad as that, but even if simple issues like bringing notes home and so on. And you must know that if a child cannot understand what the teacher is doing, cannot process what the teacher is talking about, cannot keep up with the rest, the child knows already. The child knows already that I'm not as good as the next one. And they start acting out in different ways. And by the time it's grade 3, you've missed out on what's
a foundation.
Over 700 days, school days. You know, and you're trying to rectify it in grade 3. So the minute there's a red flag, the minute there's an indication that the child is not coping, the minute that the teacher says to you that, listen, compared to the rest of the class, my understanding is that at this point in time, at this stage, your child should have attained the following things, and he or she hasn't. Understand that the teacher's warning you.
I think it's obviously some parents become defensive then,
Yes.
because I know my child, you don't know my child.
That's
But it's a
exactly what I
different-
was going to ask
It's
you
a
now,
different
Dr.
environment
Shoaib.
entirely.
Yeah.
At home, your child is someone different. In the classroom, your child is different.
Yes.
Accept that. Understand that. You do not ask your child to sit still for 25 minutes and finish off a piece of work. You don't ask your child at home to work in a group with friends in order to complete an activity. You don't ask your child to show movement. You don't do that. So your child is different at home. There are rules in the classroom. Understand that the dynamics are different.
Yes.
So accept that, yes, your child may know all the answers at home. Yes, your child may be very good at putting on the TV and helping you when your computer's down and so on. But academics in the classroom is a different
Very different ball game.
Yes.
Dr. Shoaib, why is it that we as parents are so defensive and we are
Well, I mean,
running away from the issue,
Let's ask the
denial?
parents,
and
yes.
I think
yeah.
what happens is your child is born, and obviously you're very proud of your children. They are a reflection of you, and we know that Allah SWT also mentioned that our children are a test for us. We usually focus a lot of energy around the child. It's like a new car. And then somebody comes to tell you there's a scratch on your car. And, there can't be a scratch on my car. I didn't scratch the car. But you don't realize that sometimes the child was born with something different or is different. And different doesn't mean disabled, doesn't mean that they're worse. So I think sometimes some of these differences may reflect differences in personality, or that the child needs a different approach to learning, or that the child maybe has an attention deficit problem, or the child may have a visual problem, and he can't see the board, so he gets bored after like 5 minutes and starts distracting other children around him. So those type of things, especially if it comes to your attention soon, can be rectified.
Yes.
As Yasmin said. I mean, my son, for example, used to sit at the back of the class, and it took us like a year or two to realize the kid can't see what's on the board.
No,
actually,
he doesn't know that he can't see.
because he's never seen the board.
Exactly.
So
He doesn't know
know
that.
what it looks like.
Yeah.
So,
Very interesting. So as parents, yes, we are in denial, and we have to look at ourselves first, because we want our children to be better at what they're doing, and they're the ones that need help. So things that we recognize at home, and at least the things that the teachers now telling us about, how other educators may be able to help the teachers, but you've said, the parents rather, but you've said rather go and see a professional.
Yes, no, definitely.
So some guidelines around that.
Okay, firstly, the teacher's going to point out to you, because the teacher's working with so many children. Obviously, that child that stands out, that is not completing their work, that is fooling around, that is not happy in the classroom, the teacher's going to pick that up. So already, but the teacher is not a professional. This is like when you have you go to a GP, and the GP gives you a diagnosis, then you have to go to a specialist in order to help you with that specific issue. Okay. That's when you come to a psychologist. And if it's academic issues, yes, it's the educational psychologist that will be able to help you. Not everything may be so serious. It may be simple things. So eliminate the following. Keep up to your annual optometrist checkups. Okay. Get your annually your hearing checked as well. Go in for the screening, and we have lots of facilities available. Go in and just check that. And nutrition is also very, very important. Sleep is also very, very important. So after you gauge all of those things, then go to a professional in order to help you if it's an academic challenge. Not everything is a learning disability. It may just be the child may be differently abled, and accept that as well. If your child reads slower than the others, that's fine. Is the child happy? Take it further. If you think it's an issue, consult with a specialist.
And just on sort of finding out whether your child's academically ready to start school, what is the direction to go there as well?
Well, educational psychologists do school readiness assessments, but once again, your grade R teacher will be able to tell you. And if your grade R teacher is telling you that, but however, the following things, find out more. What can you do? How can you help the child?
So, understanding the role of the parents in that, do we usually follow the instructions?
Just to go a step back, I mean, a lot of what Yasmin is saying, sometimes it's important as a parent, as a family, to have a general practitioner who knows your child, and that, will have a baseline understanding of what your child's chronic problems are. So, for example, if your child's got asthma or something like that, he may not be sleeping through the night, he may be coughing the whole night, comes to school, falls asleep in the class. So, sometimes it is a real medical issue which is affecting the child, and these are small issues. It can be a blocked nose, so the child doesn't sleep the whole night, and then they come in the morning, they're not concentrating because they're sleepy through the whole class. Or you're giving them, as Yasmin said, the incorrect nutrition. You're loading them with sugar for breakfast, and they're not sleeping early. They're on the cell phone the whole night, and they're playing Fortnite till like midnight or whatever it is. So there's lots of simple issues which we have lost in terms of our parenting skills because of the sort of remote control parenting. The child's on Fortnite and I'm on my phone, and no one's looking after anybody in that sort of dynamic.
Just to add to that, I mean, I think like 10 years, maybe even 20 years ago, parenting was very different to what it is now.
And it will be different in 5 years' time.
When I look at my kids that are in like early teens, late teens, 20s, I actually can't remember being so hands-on with them, and they're fine. They've grown up to be, alhamdulillah, successful, not so attached to the devices. But the children of today, my little ones of today, they are so attached to these devices and the sort of what's available to them.
How do you handle that? How do you?
This is a show to help our viewers, and alhamdulillah, it's all about making them realize you are the parents.
Yes.
And you have to say that you are in charge, because often children take over that. And when the minute, I mean, my 4-year-old, the minute they see you budging or you just giving, a leeway, they will take advantage.
Yeah.
But it's also what age they are in. Yeah. So it's about play therapy. It's about, hugs and kisses. It's about, talking, fun things, because my one son's into Pokemon, so we sort of divert everything around there. So it's about getting into that space of that child.
So who needs to do the adjusting?
Constantly the parent.
Yes.
We as a parent, we've been given that amana.
Yes.
And I must say, alhamdulillah, it is a task, a big task, but Allah wouldn't have given it to us if we didn't.
No, not at all.
So we have to treat our children properly and
understand that the times have changed. Yes. I mean, you want your child to go and read a book, whereas in the schools they're using iPads, they're using Kindle, So you have to keep up and you have to put in the precautionary measures, but you've got to understand that the children are not only wired differently now, their expectations in school is also different.
And we have all these facilities, I must add. I mean, there's social media experts that we can actually reach out to help us, to teach us how to block certain things on our devices for our children.
Even the language is different. Even the language is different.
Immediately, I'm sure when the English teacher, Afrikaans teacher gets an essay, that what do you call that language? Short type texting. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk to some of the active skills that we can sort of practice at home. I'm sure nutrition is on the top of the list, but I'm going to leave that a little bit later on. Okay. Time management, how to help your child with studying. When revision, is it something that you should be doing all the time? Understanding what your child is doing at school. What questions should you be asking your child?
I think it's very important to start off when they are young. Set up certain boundaries at home, and parents have to stick to them as well. You are going to have rules that apply to your child, and you are also going to have to apply to it. For example, no TV on a school night, and the parents should not be watching as well. Be there, be active, and if you're asking your child to read, you've got to be reading as well. Be the example. Be the example. Let them mimic you positively in the ideals you want to treat your child to grow up to. With that, you've got boundaries as well. If you're saying no TV in your home, make the rules with regards to the cell phones and the iPad usage, and stick to it. Say this is it, and make the child understand that mommy may need to be on the computer because mommy is doing work or daddy's doing work, and this is my book. Call it a notebook and take it from there.
I think this is such a fundamental rule of parenting, and we often forget it, that the school is not going to necessarily give the kid a foundation which they need to get at home. So that discipline, the manners, maybe making time to read Quran, making your salah, those things that the parents have to set an example for the children, and then the children will follow. And similarly, those time management skills, you can't expect the child to learn it all at school. They need to learn the skills themselves, and you can help them with those skills.
Now that mom or dad who's always late, That mom or dad who's always late, dropping the child off late at school, you don't have time management already sorted out, and you expect your child to do so. So you've got to sort yourself out first.
And I must say, time management, respecting time, your time and others, is actually a sunnah. And
so I must tell you, my 13-year-old teaches me time management, because she's
the one in the morning. Our blessings.
She's the one in the morning. Are you ready for school? Yeah, we're going to be late. So.
Nothing wrong with that.
We as role models need to portray that what we want our children to do. And at the end of the day, it just comes down to positive parenting. But we'll talk more on academic challenges just after this. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Very good evening. Welcome back. Academic challenges that your child might face, and it comes back to you as a parent. This is something that we need to realize. That child is not yours just because that child is now the teacher's child just because you handed them over to a school. It is you as a parent need to be involved, need to be involved, and that's why we want to hear from you. Any issues with regards to educators and questions that you have about the school, about your child, please do interact with us. Our live call-in number will appear on the screen. Also, our WhatsApp is available, so if you're shy and you may WhatsApp us on that WhatsApp line. It is open at the moment, so please do WhatsApp any academic concerns through to our educational psychologist Yasmin, and we have our in-studio medical specialist Dr. Shuaib Wadi. So looking at some of the things that we've discussed and we were chatting about around this topic, you've mentioned poor attention span, information processing issues, language barriers. What are those, and how does that impact? Does it actually, arise during the first year, or if the child is having some issues?
First year is a little bit too early.
Okay.
You can pick up a number of behavioral issues, attention issues, and so on. Is the child following instructions? Can they follow 2 or 3 instructions at a time? Are they keeping up, and so on? You can pick that up quite early. And in fact, most parents already pick this up in their child, but they tend to give it a reason to say that, you know what, she's always been like this. But look at it from an academic perspective. And you know that if the child's presenting with a problem already in grade R and grade 1, it's going to only get a little bit more difficult later on. So if we're looking at that in attention issues, simple things that parents can do is give a single instruction, give multiple instructions, and watch. Look at it. See if it gets, it's different at different times in the day, in the morning, midday, after they've had a snack, or have they been eating lots of sweets and so on. Just notice. And you would see a similar kind of a thing that the teacher's reporting back. With regards to information processing, there's different speeds at which your brain processes information. And some can work very, very fast, where with others there's a bit of a lag. They still need to take in a whole lot of other things like sensory input and so on. So it's just the way your brain is relaying and processing the information that your senses are sending through, and what you're hearing and what you're seeing and so on. Sometimes there's a disconnect and there is a lag, and it's totally okay. There are simple exercises you can do, again with professional diagnosis and getting directions from a profession that will be able to help you. Except that as for language, I mean, if you are teaching, if your child is learning, English and you are speaking the vernacular at home, it's going to be difficult. If you want the child to learn English properly and you want the child to understand the social innuendos of the English language, practice that at home as well. Yes, it's important that the child learns the mother tongue, learns the vernacular, but there's a time and space. Maybe you do it over the weekends, or maybe you put that in together with and you ask the child to answer you in English and so on. If it is a problem, if the child can manage both, then it's fine.
What happens with the issue when educators are of the opinion, but I taught your child this work, they should know it? Is there a space and a time where we should go, the teacher or the parent, whatever the case may be, don't even understand, what is happening? It could be in high school, possibly. So the teacher says, listen, I've taught the work, you need to know it now.
The teacher's job is to teach. And if a teacher is saying that, you can engage the assistance of a tutor.
Okay.
And if it's still you're not getting anywhere, then you need to go to check if there's a professional, if there's a serious issue that's at hand.
Okay, Dr. Shoaib?
So I think, this is a common problem in high schools, that a lot of kids are in mainstream high schools, and then they still go for tuition afterwards, and the family says, this child, I'm driving her to like tuition for 5 different things, and I'm paying like so much money for a private school, and the kid still needs tuition. And then there are various reasons. Sometimes it does arise out of a specific learning abnormality. It's a natural product of the competitive nature of our society at the moment. So your kid will come home, Fatima will say, Daddy, everyone's going for Afrikaans tuition. I think I need to go for Afrikaans tuition. And then you send Fatima for Afrikaans tuition. And you haven't actually assessed whether she needs Afrikaans tuition or not.
And that comes from the teacher. Ask the teacher. Once again, I go back to that. Your teacher's your professional. Do you think my child will be able to give us better results if she went in for tuition? What is your opinion? Ask the teacher firstly.
And look, I think the problem is if you've missed something in primary school and a lower level, the pace of learning once you reach high school, and especially the last 3 years, but once you're into the sort of pre-matric years, grade 10, 11 and 12, the pace of learning is much faster.
So are academic challenges different when it comes to a secondary school? High school?
It's about the same. It's a little bit more complicated then because you've missed out on the foundation years, and it's about getting consolidated in the high school years. And but no, we can address everything and we can still look at it. Okay,
so let's look at some practical things around time management and what you said. If the parents is constantly late, there's definitely no time management there. Let's talk about some practical things of what we know. Mr. Google, Professor Dr. Google is out there, and often we do that. So what are some of the safe things from your side?
Okay, you already have your school day set out according to a timetable, and the child is conditioned to know that at 8 o'clock I'm having English, and 8:30 I'm going in for double maths, and break is at 20 past 10. Why not have a similar structure at home? That structure is in there, it's instilled in the child, and more or less, we work around, okay, we'll either have supper before or after Maghrib, depending what time parents get home. And this will be a snack time and so on. So keep to that. You can have general, not to say at 10:20 or at 8 o'clock everyone has to be sitting at the table. General things like that, and keep to it.
All right. We've got a question, Cameron. Assalamu alaikum. What does one do when your child knows all their work at home, but when they get the report from school, it's different, she's actually failing? How do we know what the problem is or where the problem is?
A parent won't be able to diagnose that. You have to come to an educational psychologist. This is when you need a person like me in to work through with our special tools in order to nitpick and basically do the detective work.
Dr. Shoaib?
I think sometimes what the parents' perception of what the school is testing is not the same as what the school is actually testing. And it can range from a variety of problems. So the parent may be testing the child in a certain environment, in a certain way, and testing certain things. So for example, telling the child, list the common causes of this thing, and the child rattles it out because they've just learned it 5 minutes ago. Whereas when they go to school, the questions are unpredictable. So the child may know what to expect the parent to ask, but there's other possibilities. And it's a common thing for kids to have poor exam skills. It's something which is not well taught through primary school, in fact, right up to university. I was in university, and I still remember myself and many of my friends learning basic exam skills, time management in the exam, how to segregate the questions so that you can answer them, how to answer those which are more valuable in terms of marks, and so forth and so on. And many times a kid doesn't have that skill. And then what we're finding a lot from a medical perspective side is that a lot of kids have anxiety because of this expectation that kids are so competitive. But if I don't get 9, 10 A's in matric, my life is ruined, I'm going to end up just like my mother. You know, those are the...
Oh, no.
Which is not a bad thing necessarily. Not a bad thing necessarily.
No, I mean, so I mean, I'm just saying.
So let's bring in the whole sex thing, male and female. But before we do that, anything you want to add on with regards to helping this parent? Because I did some just research, and some of the notes that I saw was, and it often comes up even in my high school years, get the exam paper. I don't know, somehow it came up in this information and they say that over and over, let your child rather do, X exam papers of this and that subjects. That's better than testing them one-on-one. Is that true?
True.
Okay.
True, because the type of questioning is different, as Dr. Wadi pointed out. And then getting your child to understand, what does list mean? What does describe mean?
Okay.
What do they want when they say
Yeah.
justify? What do they want when they say explain? Looking at the mark weighting, how much do you give in, and so on. You've got to teach in terms of exam skills. That's also important. Beforehand, you know how long the test is going to be, and you know the different sections. Teachers are giving you breakdowns. We never had that when we were at school. We never always had a breakdown. We never had past papers or so many at hand. If you had cousins in other schools,
yes,
you'd then borrow their papers, and that's
yeah.
how it would go. Now everything's online. There's even testing skills and mock exam papers. Everything's available. So yes,
if I think back,
the best.
There was only 2 teachers, I mean maybe 1, okay, 2, that actually taught us how to answer a question.
Yeah.
What is that, like you said, explain,
Well, they're too busy getting through the syllabus to discuss, because there isn't a separate exam skills sort of module. I don't know if it's built into life orientation or anything now.
Coming to that, I think every school should have a psychologist on board or even a counselor to help with this, because it's supplementing what the teachers are doing in the classroom, but from an emotional perspective.
Doesn't come up in life skills?
It does, but a teacher is not equipped to handle certain things like anxiety. What do you do about test anxiety? How do I teach a child to breathe properly? How do I get a child to calm him or herself down? How do I tell the child what to look out for?
They're real problems. There are other problems, like, for example...
In fact, the children knows the work. They know it, but because of this anxiety...
There are other problems, like, for example, dyslexia, which can lead to significant delays in your ability to write and read and process information, which go undiagnosed sometimes into adulthood.
Unfortunately.
Maybe Yasmin can tell us a bit more about that.
We want to look at that just after the break, if you don't mind. Yasmin and Dr. Wadi will come back with more of your questions, academic challenges you might have faced with, and maybe it doesn't happen with your children. But as we spoke earlier on, you, the parent, if you want actively your child to do something, you should do it first and play that role over and over again. We'll talk more just after this. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. This is Health Matters, academic challenges, the difficulties your child might have at school. And whether it's small or big, just have that interaction, that one-on-one with a child now and then. If you think, oh no, she or he is an A-grade student, you're not going to worry. Just your parent involvement makes a difference. We have educational psychologists in studio with us, Yasmin, Umar, and Dr. Wadi.
I'm still Dr. Wadi, thanks.
Nephrologist. Okay, so let's get back to nutrition. We spoke about it earlier on, and this is, I think, one of the most important things in a child's life,
balanced meals,
when it comes to them working their brain. Let's talk about nutrition and doing well at school.
Okay, firstly, eliminate any dietary restrictions. If you notice certain things are not sitting down well with your child, consult a medical professional and take it from there if they are gluten intolerant and so on.
Irritant or something.
Yes, anything. But keeping that balance, I think it's important. And sometimes where you can compensate is in snacking. Give them healthy snacks. Very, very important. Don't put in that chocolate, put in peanuts, put in fruit. If they prefer a certain type of fruit, go with it. I think nutrition is very important. Eating right, well, that will also, as we said earlier, you've got to also eat right. Yes. Put in the salads and so on. Carrot sticks, cucumber, your different colors in your red berries, your colored fruit and so on. Very, very important. I mean, you are making the meals. I know we are rushed, mums and dads are both working, and you come home and you rush and you just want to get whatever. But a little bit of extra planning over the weekend will definitely
And get the children involved in it.
Get them involved. Why not?
Yes.
Get them involved and
Agreed.
get both involved, boys and girls, into the kitchen to help you. They're essential skills. You can watch the organizational skills. You can help them with hand skills. It's micro skills that they'd be learning. How to maneuver the knife.
Make
how
an
to work on it.
afternoon of
Yes.
making snacks.
Yes, no, you can
Getting
do
the
that.
snacks ready.
Cut
Yeah.
all your vegetables up and put it in. Yes.
Dr.
Very
Shoaib,
important.
do you have any opinion on supplements to help children academically?
So, I mean, I think the main thing, as Yasmin is saying, is to have a plan. I mean, it's very difficult to have a proper rational diet when you wake up in the morning and decide what you're going to have for breakfast. You should have the things available to make sure that you have a healthy breakfast available. You're not going to run over to Checkers and buy something at 6 in the morning, you know. So those type of things are important. If you have a well-balanced, healthy diet, you shouldn't really need additional supplements. I mean, some things, essential fatty acids and essential amino acids are...
Oh, we've got a salmon up there.
Are useful.
Yes.
Are useful for but you can get them to your normal diet. So, for example, salmon can give you omega-3 fatty acids, some vitamin D, those type of things. Spending time in the sun can give you some vitamin D. You need to have some dairy for calcium, phosphate, those other things. So, you do need to have a variety of foods in your diet. And then avoid things like fast foods, highly processed foods, very salty foods, because they do have other long-term effects, you know.
Water.
And then make sure you're drinking sufficient water as well. I mean, it's a common problem we find actually, especially as kids get a bit bigger and they go to school and the toilets are not so nice and they try and avoid the toilet. So they actually don't drink water in school because they don't want to go to the loo, especially in winter. And that child walks around, says sort of semi-dehydrated until they get home. It's not just children.
And that's where they come and see you later on when they're adults. That's where they come and see you.
Yeah, but it's important you raise these issues with your school. Go and ask them and then say to them, why can't we get this sorted? Why can't we get this clean? Create an awareness.
Okay, we need to wrap up, guys, and I want to look at some of the issues around approaching your boy or girl child when it does come to an academic problem. Do you do that differently?
I don't think they should be treated differently according to gender. I think according to abilities and according to your expectations and so on, I think that needs to be adjusted. So you may have a boy who is lagging behind in English but quite good in maths and so on, and then you tend to just focus on that and take it further and say, it's fine, the girls can see to the English and so on. No, there should be a balance with everything. And I think parents need to also move away from that. You know what? It's fine if you don't go to university. You're a female. You're going to get married one day. You know what? Financial situations are extremely bad. And if your child is able and you are able to send the child through, I mean, there's lots of funding and scholarships and bursaries available. Give her that opportunity as well. Why not? Don't treat them differently based on gender. We have that a lot.
Look at their abilities and not gender.
Yes.
Dr. Shoaib, you've got a minute.
From a medical and just a biological perspective, obviously there are differences. So we do know that, for example, women, girls, as they go through their puberty and their teenage years, they may have problems with menstruation and so forth like that. And it's a big problem in schools in South Africa where kids miss school because they don't have that confidence of being sort of clean during those periods. So those things can arise, and I think there's, especially in if you don't discuss it with your child and say, are you confident? Have you been having issues like that? And sometimes we know that we live in a modern environment. Some kids are being brought up without a mother. So often that's a mother's responsibility because they will have been through that. But if you're a single parent and a father, you may need to
even a child-headed household.
You may have to address that with your child. There are other things, you know, there's obviously interaction between the genders, there's hormones raging, there's lots of other different priorities which arise in these teenage kids, which we haven't even touched on, which can impact their academic performance. So I think while not being negligent or ignoring those issues, you need to actually make sure that even though these kids are different, they have an equal opportunity to excel. They have an equal opportunity to further their knowledge. They have an equal opportunity to achieve in life. And as Yasmin was saying, we live in a society where dual-headed households or households where you need a dual breadwinner are almost the commonest norm.
Your take-home message, the way forward, and how technology can play a role in helping parents with their children's academic results.
I know this is a sore point with most parents. Take the phone away the minute they want to punish the child. Take the phone away. No access to the internet. Change the Wi-Fi password and so on. But use it. Use it intelligently, and don't use it as a punishment mode, and work with your child. Yes, some children need much more of a restrictions, and some others are good enough to say, I'm going to put this away. I've got an exam coming up, I'm going to put this away, and so on. Teach your child to be responsible, and if you are switching off the Wi-Fi, or if you're changing the password, say, I'm doing it now, not as a punishment, I'm doing it now because I think we all need to concentrate right now. And negotiate.
Time away from technology.
Yeah.
Jazakallah, shukran so much to you, Yasmin and Dr. Wadi, our educational psychologist. There are some questions of people wanting some list of advice and references, and we'll give that to him. But we appreciate your time. Until we speak again, assalamu alaikum to you guys, and we'll see you soon, Dr. Wadi.
Inshallah.
So there you have it. Teachers and parents have a responsibility. You are the first port of call that will pick up the child's challenge at school. Work together and stay together working. And remember, us as parents, we have that amana. So role play, be that role model, and inshallah your child will follow suit. From myself, wa salamun wa salamu alaikum, and goodbye for now.